Hey guys, Michael here. Today I'm going to share with you in XCS how I set up to do a full 360-degree wrap around a tumbler. It's the process that I go through to make sure this engraving going to match and actually line up perfectly so that it's a seamless design where you can't tell where it starts and ends. I'm going to make this on the RA2 Pro. You can actually engrave this on the M1, the D1, the P2. The machine doesn't matter as long as it works with XCS. Also in this video, I'm going to share with you some third-party accessories you can purchase for your RA2 Pro to make actually using the RA2 Pro that much better. Stick around, let's get to it. So before you start creating, you're definitely going to need to decide on what design you want to go with. What I did was I went online and decided I wanted to go with a leopard print design. Next thing you need to do is gather all the materials you're going to need to process this project. First thing you're going to need is your tumbler, your RA2 Pro, the RA2 Pro leveler, RA2 Pro accessories, a flexible tape measure or the tape measure that came with your RA2 Pro, and as an optional accessory, some blue painter's tape. Now that you have your design, we need to make some measurements on your tumbler. Take your tape measure, wrap it around your tumbler. Make sure you don't stretch the tape measure as you're wrapping it around. You want to keep it tight, but not too tight to give you a false measurement. Make a note of that measurement. Now that we know the perimeter of that tumbler, using that same tape measure, measure the tumbler and see how high you want that engraving to be on your tumbler. Now that you have your measurements, it's time to set up your RA2 Pro. Now, whether you're going to be clamping on the bottom or maybe in my case, the inside, you want to adjust the jaws of the RA2 Pro in accordance to matching your tumbler. When it comes to setting up the RA2 Pro, you might also have to use the leveler that comes with it. Now in this case, this tumbler is really long, and when it's attached to the RA2 Pro, it might want to sag, and you can actually take this leveler and set it on the tabletop. You want to adjust your tumbler where it's just inside those wheels, just like that. And you can adjust this just by raising and lowering this to make sure it's nice and level. So next thing I want to do is actually take the measurements that I have and see, does it actually match what I need to do to wrap around this and have a perfect 360-degree engraving. And what I like to do is use my blue painter's tape, and I'll wrap this 2 times just in a single strip, and I'll score an object on here all the way around, and I'll check to see, does that object line up or does it not? And let me share with you real quick how I draw that object here in XCS. Here we are in XCS. Now what I want to do is set up a shape that I can use to actually do my score testing. First thing I'm going to do is insert a rectangle. I'm going to draw that rectangle out. I'm going to go ahead and unlock the padlock and set it to 5 millimeters high. And I'm going to leave the width alone for right now. Then I'm going to come over here and insert a triangle. I like the vertical sided triangle. And I'm going to resize that once it enters in the screen. I'm going to make it 10 millimeters. Let me zoom in a little bit. And so it's 10 millimeters high, 10 millimeters wide, and I'm going to duplicate that. So copy, paste, and then I'm going to flip this around. So I'm going to reflect both horizontally and vertically. Now that I have that set up, I'm going to take this, move this to the end of the rectangle, select them both, and set the alignment to the left. I'm going to do the same thing for the one on the right. So I'm going to take this, move it just like this, and I'm going to select them both and say align right. Now if I zoom out, you can see I have a triangle on either side, and one's pointing up and one's pointing down. I'll select all that, combine and unite so that it is one solid piece. Set up your RA2 Pro and tumbler inside your engraver, making sure that it is square to the frame of your engraver, and also make sure the tumbler is level using the included level that came with your RA2 Pro. Let's pause for a minute. I'm going to share with you real quick the accessories that I mentioned earlier in this video. And there's a company by the name of Lakeshore 3D that has some amazing products for the RA2 Pro. Number one is a centering tool. One thing you have trouble with is finding the center of your laser or the tumbler. They came with this little tool. It actually just fits on top of your RA2 Pro. That's all there is to it. And there's your center. It's just that easy. Number two is your level. It's made of hard plastic and it's sometimes kind of hard to balance on there. It wants to slide around. They came up with these little guys, and let me just slip it on there. And there's two of them. And once you put it on there, you literally just slide it in there, and now it's not going to go anywhere on your tumbler. It actually matches the curvature of your tumbler, and yeah, it doesn't go anywhere, and it makes it easier to level your tumbler. It doesn't slide around. And the third and final thing, and this is my favorite thing, this is called their super leveler. And what you will do is actually detach your gearbox from the base plate and install this piece. And this piece just slides in place, and you'll actually attach your gearbox back to the super leveler. And all you have to do to level your tumbler now is rotate this knob, and as you rotate it, it'll go up, and the other way will make it go down. Also, when you need to switch your configuration, all you have to do is slide this over, and you're ready to use the tumbler with a handle, or you can slide it back this way, and you can use a regular tumbler without a handle. So, man, those are some really cool products. I'll put the link in the description down below. This is by Lakeshore 3D. Also, speaking of links, I have affiliate links to xTool inside the description of any of my videos. If you happen to make a purchase, whether you're buying a laser engraver or just accessories, material, anything through the xTool website, that will actually help support me and my channel, and I would really appreciate that. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Once you have that set up, in this case, I'm using the M1. I'm going to take a picture of inside the M1 so that I can set up my score test. Once you're connected to your laser engraver, you can come over to the right, select laser cylindrical. Once you do that, it's going to rotate 90 degrees. This line that you see here is the start of the engraving. So what I want to do is take my object that I'm going to use as my test object and put it just to the right of that line, because that's where it's going to start and engrave to the right. Over here on the right hand side, you need to set the distance to the tumbler, and that's going to be different depending on the machine you're working with. In this case, I'm going to manually type it in because I know what that distance is. Also down here, I need to change from roller to chuck because I'm using the RA2 Pro. Further down here, when you're using the chuck, you need to enter the perimeter of the material that you're using, or basically what you measured around this tumbler. So I'm going to come over here and type 245. Lastly, what I want to do is scroll down to the right and set up all my settings for this particular object. Now, depending on which engraver you're going to be using, the power and speed are going to be a little bit different. You'll have to do some trial and error because I don't want to burn through the tape. I just want to mark on the tape. The goal of this test is to take this vertical line and see that it actually hits this other vertical line when it's finished. If it does not, I'll need to adjust the length of this to match that. If the lines don't hit each other, I need to lengthen this. If the lines overlap each other, I need to shorten this. Here you can see my test that I did earlier. I tested 245 millimeters wide for my piece. As you can see, the lines do not line up with each other. I tried at 246 and they actually overlapped a little bit. So I split the difference and made it 245.5, and here you can see the lines line up with each other, so I know I need to make my engraving 245.5. So now that I know 245.5 is a perfect width for this object, I can remove that object, come over here to image, and import my pattern of choice. I'm going to take this pattern and adjust the width and the height so that it matches my tumbler. In this case, I want to make the width to be 245.5 and I want the height to be 200. Now the last thing I have to do is make sure this is lined up correctly up and down to fit my tumbler. Come over here to the right and adjust the power, the speed, the bitmap mode, the lines per centimeter, and anything else I need to do. And then I can process it and send that to the engraver so that I can start the engraving process. Well, there you have it. That's my method of setting up a tumbler when I want to engrave a full 360 degrees around it with a seamless design. Another thing you can do is if you have a scrap tumbler that you want to test on, you can actually cut this engraving down to just a little sliver and engrave just the top portion of it all the way around to check to see is it going to work or not. And you can actually test this multiple times. You don't have to use a tape method. Also, when it comes to that tape method, another thing you can do is actually literally wrap your tumbler in tape if you want to take the time and engrave this all the way just to test it. Is it going to work properly or whatever? You can actually do this with just wrapping the whole thing in tape and saving yourself tumblers if you want to go that route. Hopefully you found this video useful. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time.